Am I right? At St. John's?
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes and no. All right. We're not gonna call. Your pastor ain't here, so don't worry about it. You're not in any trouble. But I've known this man as well. He doesn't know, but several years ago, you used to be writing that column in the community.
Yes, amen.
I missed that little paper.
Me too.
But there was groups about us.
Yes.
And that's how you found out what was happening, and you were able to see people who look like us doing good things in the community. And he had a weekly article that he used to write, and I used to like your little ramblings and all of the stuff that you used to write about. So you don't know. I remember you from that even before meeting you. But he's somebody that we all know and love, very active in the Roosevelt community and throughout the entire corridor. And he's somebody that is very deserving.
Yes.
This is a public servant, very deserving of that title of Nassau County Clerk. So I'm going to introduce to you the next Nassau County Clerk,
Say that.
Carl DeHaney.
Thank you, man. I just, even before I get started, I just certainly want to just give Annette a round of applause. Sharing her home with us, so she could come and just talk a little bit. I certainly want to acknowledge my running mates. The next county executive for Nassau County, the person of Mr. George Merrill. And the next county controller, the next Nassau County controller in the person of Miss Alma Yorson. Come on, give it up for her. Phenomenal speaker. And yes, she does have more, I don't say more degrees than Fahrenheit. I said Fahrenheit is a degree. I say she has more degrees than a thermometer. I think that would kind of fit, right? I just kind of, and I want to piggyback just certainly on Alma's, on her comments and what she was saying just in terms of the corridor. My name is Carl DeHaney, just to make it official. I am seeking the office of Nassau County Clerk. I am a lifelong resident of Roosevelt, New York, and anybody knows that anywhere I go, I rep Roosevelt anywhere I go. There's a scripture, and I always kind of allude to it. What good thing could come out of Galilee? What good thing could come out of Nazareth? And I always refer to that because it reminds me of Roosevelt when I think of all the good that have come out of the history of Roosevelt. Julius Erving, God, the group God, Public Enemy, all of the groups and everything that has come out of Roosevelt. Eddie Murphy, yes indeed. April.
I love it.
But I said all of that for a reason, and I heard Alma, she was mentioning the corridor and the property values in Roosevelt and where we live, how the houses, they reflect the same value in other communities, but they don't reflect they don't equal in value when you go to other neighborhoods. And there's a history of that. My parents, when we came to Long Island in, say, like 1968, something around that time, the community was vastly different. It was mostly white. And if anybody sees Roosevelt now, you might not be able to fathom that. Roosevelt was a predominantly white community. There was something that took place called white flight. Is anybody familiar with white flight? So as the black families began to come into Roosevelt, the white families began to leave Roosevelt. But not only that, once we had white flight, the businesses also left Roosevelt, and it left a shell of what once was. And anybody that knows the history of Roosevelt knows that we used to have a movie theater.
That's
used
right.
to be a roller
That's
rink.
right.
Used to be an A&P.
Yes.
Used to be a diner.
Yes.
Used to be all those things that made us a self-sufficient community. All of those things were in Roosevelt. Roosevelt was a self-sufficient community that mirrored many of the other communities that were in Nassau County at the time. What we don't want is to go back to that. What we want to do is reverse that and begin to build the infrastructure of our communities, communities like Roosevelt, so we can absorb some of the tax that we complain about. The reason that the taxes are so high is because there's nothing to absorb them. There's nothing there. There's no commercial. There's nothing to absorb. And that's not the clerk's job, but I'm a resident, so I'm kind of, these are the things that I've always wanted to say. There's nothing to absorb those taxes. So what we will do, what you see in this ticket, are people that know that that's important.
My mission is to be a public service and give back to the community and do what is right for the community, not for the politically connected, not for the party bosses. I'm not a career politician. I came into politics for the right reason, to give back to the community and do what is right for all our residents. And in 8 years as county controller, I've seen government and politics from the inside. I was a Republican, and I felt that the Republican Party was not serving the community. I was being criticized, believe it or not, for reaching out to the minority communities, whether they be Hispanic, African American, Korean, Chinese. And that seemed foreign to me because that's not why I came into government. And I can tell you, I've seen the Democrats, the Democratic system, Jay Jacobs, and they are no different. They care about themselves. They care about the party. They care about the politically connected. They care about the contributions, the political contributions that fund the corrupt system that we have. They didn't do anything. Tom Suozzi didn't do very much for the minority communities. And yet our minority communities, and I'm sorry, I don't want to call anybody minority because we're all Americans. Okay? So just so that we can communicate, our ethnic groups, let's call them ethnic groups, now represent 40% of our population right here in Nassau County. And yet you are underrepresented in government in terms of jobs, in terms of business opportunities, in terms of police officers that we have. Our minorities in government, in all levels, are less than 8% of all the jobs and all the opportunities. And yet, we represent 40%, nearly 40% of the population. Is that fair? Is that just?
No.
You know, it's not. And you see what is happening. The people that get the contracts are the ones that are politically connected. And I can assure you, Jay Jacobs knew what he was doing in selecting somebody who was unqualified. He wanted somebody who was going to be his puppet, who's unable to stand up on her own. She doesn't have the qualifications, the experience, and she would need to call up Jay Jacobs for every decision that needs to be made.
Oh, no.
Or for Jay Jacobs to call her up and say, this is what we should do, this is who we should award this lucrative contract, this is who we should give the politically connected law firms and their clients huge tax breaks. And you know who pays for those tax breaks that the wealthy get? You do. You property tax, you are paying a disproportionate higher percentage of property tax than you should because of the shift that has happened whereby the politically connected get huge tax breaks and shift the assessment down to the middle class. We did an audit back in 2011 that highlighted that the system was unfair, was unjust. They call it broken. It's not broken, it's rigged. It's rigged against the middle class. And Newsday about 3 months ago highlighted this, that the shift has resulted in middle class homes paying 15 to 30%. Can you imagine? 15 to 30% more in property tax than you should. And that includes not only your county tax, but your school tax, which is your highest portion of your property tax bill. You're paying $3,000 to $5,000 more a year in property tax than you should. You're subsidizing the high-end homes. That is what is happening. So you have this weird situation where our minorities are getting less of the opportunities, jobs and businesses in government, and disproportionately paying a higher portion of the tax bill. That is crazy. It's unfair, it's unjust. And you see what has happened continuously in terms of where money is being invested. It's not being invested in the minority and the ethnic communities. They cut those services. They cut the bus services. So where the public transportation is needed, where the roads need to be paved, where youth boards are needed to take care of our kids, they're not investing there. They never did. And those are the first place they look to cut. So if you want to change politics in Nassau County and empower your communities, empower yourselves, reduce your property taxes, pay a fair share. Nobody's saying don't pay a fair share. But now you are paying a disproportionately higher. You're subsidizing the well-to-do. And if you want a fair shake, and what government needs to do, which has an obligation to do, to help those that have the greatest needs, the wealthy can take care of themselves, and yet they are the ones feeding out the government. They are benefiting out the government. And the middle class and the poor that need the greatest help from government are being shortchanged. Right? That is the truth that I've seen as controller from the inside out. And if you ask me, since I am the controller, to put a number on, call it waste, corruption, patronage, all combined, that we still have in government, it's anywhere from $250 to $300 million. That is patronage. That is going to the politically connected. So if you truly want to change for your benefit, for the benefit of your families and your children, to find jobs in government, business opportunities that will benefit your communities, in the police department that will provide better public safety, you have a unique opportunity this September 12th.
Running for Nassau County Executive.
Yes.
You know that's important.
Yes.
That's why I'm running for Nassau County.
Yes.
Because you know that's important. That's why I'm running for Nassau County Clerk.
Yes.
In order for you to even do
Yes.
your research, you have to start at the clerk's office.
Yes.
You have to find your section, block, and lock number.
Yes.
It started at the
Yes.
clerk's office.
Yes.
If you want to know what's going on, how it was ruled in court.
Yes.
Court record. You gotta come to the
That's
clerk's
my
office.
candidate.
See, but we don't know
Yes.
that. We don't really understand that. We don't understand what the clerk's office does because that outreach has never reached us. And most of the most important outreach in Nassau County never reaches our communities. I'm telling you, this is the time for it.
Yes.
We had a conversation yesterday, and my friend Pablo Sinclair is also my campaign manager. Yeah, Pablo, give it up for Pablo. Pablo got off on a rant, and I'm with him all the time. Him, Ty, our whole crew, Bobby, we're all together all the time. Pablo started talking, I had to double take it. I was like, who is this talking? He began to talk about the Democratic vote. And this is the bread and butter here. We began to talk about the Democratic vote. I'm a lifelong Democrat. Ever since I voted, I've always voted Democrat. My parents were Democrat. Coming from the city, they didn't have to register Republican to get no job. That's right. My father was a New York City cop. My mother was a registered nurse. So we were free to be what we wanted to be. But one thing about the Democratic vote, as opposed to my Republican brothers and sisters, I'll say this: our Republican brothers and sisters will vote for dog catcher. They'll vote for worm catcher. Any position that there's a vote, there's an electorate, they'll vote. Our Democrat, and I'm gonna be hard on us as Democrats. Our Democratic brothers and sisters, we do not do the same thing. It doesn't hold the same importance. And then when we lose, we say, look at this chump we have in office.
Yes.
But that's our fault. The chump is our fault. And I'm going to say that clearly. That's our fault. This is the time where we can fix that. If you want to really see change,
that's our
if you want to
candidate.
really see representation in office in Nassau County, this is your ticket. You can't get a better ticket than this.
That's our ticket. That's our ticket. That's our ticket.
That's our ticket.
And I know I'm going on long. I feel funny speaking this long without taking a text. I'll say this lastly, and I always go back to the conversation with Mr. Maragos and I when we sat down when Tarina kind of got in my ear. And Tarina, when Tarina asked me certain questions, I was like, oh shoot, who's asking? So Tarina came to me some while ago, and Tarina's my girl. We go back. And she came and I'm kind of dramatic, so I'll tell the story just how it was. She called me. She was like, Carl, hey, Carl. I was like, oh, shoot, what's the matter? What's the matter? And she was like, listen, what would you think about being the commissioner of the Department of Social Services? And I said, well, who's asking, T? And she's like, all right, Carl, can I talk to you for a minute? And I was like, okay. And then we had our pre-conversation. She was like, George Maragos is running for Nassau County Executive.
Amen.
And I said, I know George because I see George everywhere. I tell this story everywhere I go. George is everywhere. Especially look, we're family, especially in the hood.
Yeah.
You see George.
Yeah.
So she said, listen, Carl, don't say no so fast. Because I've been in the county 15 years. I'm going into my 15th year in Nassau County government, and I was a little disenchanted with the whole process. So she said, just hear it out, Carl. Let's go sit down and talk. So George buzzed me. He's like, Carl, what are you doing, for lunch? He said, can we sit down and talk at lunch? And being a good county employee, the steward with your county dollars, I said, no, I can't meet you for lunch, but I can meet you at 4:45 when I get home. And we can talk after. Because I thought George had set me up. But that's another story. So we sat down and talked, and we began to talk about Nassau County as a whole, the things that we wanted to see better. He was asking me what I saw from the inside out, being in county government 14 years. And a lot of disparity. We got to just be honest about it. A lot of disparity, not only in employment, because we talk about employment, but in distribution of services.
Yes.
Our neighborhoods don't get the same things that
Yes.
So we had that conversation. It was a very candid conversation. And in the midst of it, George just kind of, he caught us all off guard. Tarina, all of us. He's just like, Carl, all right, so look, listen, I'm running for county executive, and I would be a fool to think that I could win this thing without an African-American on my ticket. And I was like, I wouldn't say fool, but difficult, probably.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely. So listen, what would you think about running as my clerk? And I was like, who? And he's like, you. Why don't you run for county clerk with me? Let's make history. Let's do this. And I said, well, let me think about it. And Tarina got mad as hell. She was like, listen, I was like, George, I think it's a great opportunity. Let me talk to the people I love. My pastor, my wife, my mom, and all the people in the community. I asked people on the street, common people, listen, what do you think about that? Carl, you paid your dues. You better do that. You need to. So we had the conversation. Absolutely.
Yes.
So I was supposed to revisit George on that Monday. George was out ill. He came back Wednesday, and we sat down and talked. And the rest is history. Here we are.
Yes.
And now it's up to all of us. And I say this not only in the churches, but I say it everywhere. We are asking for your blessing to serve.
Yes.
And your blessing is in the form of a vote. We can't go anywhere without your blessing. And we need your blessing right now. Because the truth of the matter is, in this instance, when you bless us, you're blessing yourself with your representation that you want to see. So I say that, and I'll say that in closing. September 12th is the Democratic primary. Here is the candidates. This is the best game in town. The Democratic primary. George Maragos, Nassau County Executive. Ms. Alma Yorson, Nassau County Controller. And Carl Dehaney, Nassau County Clerk. Thank you for your time.
Walk, talk, and vote. Walk, talk, and vote. Walk, talk, and vote. Walk, talk, and vote.
All right, y'all give it up for Carl Dehaney. We got a couple other candidates here that we want you to hear from as well.
Step until you reach higher ground. Let nobody turn you around. Step on up, you can claim the highest star. Straight ahead, it's not very far. Keep on. Keep on. With the strength of try.